Yes, guys, I'm sorry. Welcome to Cardiff City World. You have to excuse my appearance. I look a bit rough. But there we go again. We get through it 7 days a week. Cardiff City World by Cardiff fans for Cardiff fans. Talking all things Cardiff City. It's Friday evening. It's not an international break, which means it's preview night where we take a look at the opposition whilst also discussing Cardiff City, which is never boring. There is always something to talk about. Of course, we have an interim manager at the moment in Riza, who said some encouraging things in his press conference. But, I mean, as I say regularly, manager press conferences are useless. You can't believe a word they say. But if we take him on face value, we should expect maybe not a particularly different lineup, but certainly a different or a more aggressive way of playing. That remains to be seen. But you've got to take him at his word for at least for the time being and see. Obviously, he's been there this season, and since he's come in, you could argue that there's been a downturn in the way Cardiff City have gone about attacking, not just in terms of creating chances, but finishing, urgency, everything. Just moving the ball, movement off the ball has been terrible this season. It wasn't great last season, but it's been even worse this season. So I am very interested to see how he lines up and also who he goes with, because obviously Joel Bagan being suspended means we probably see Callum O'Dowd at left back. If you want to be a bit more attacking, I guess it's not the worst thing to have a winger in there. I hope we see the end of the inverted wingers, for instance, but I think the limited options may mean that we at least see one inverted winger, but we'll discuss it in full. Cardiff head to the MKM Stadium to take on Hull City on Saturday. First game since Errol Bullett's sacking. The former boss was obviously sacked on Sunday afternoon, with the Bluebirds sat bottom of the table with 1 goal, 1 point, and it's been painful. Their hosts recorded the first victory of the season, moved up to 16th. Very mixed bag from Hull this year, but they will be looking to make it back-to-back victories after a difficult start under their new manager, Tim Walter. Aiming to sustain another playoff push this season, Walter and Hull will began with 3 successive draws in the season, and it's been difficult. I think they had a 5-game winless streak, but look, Hull, generally speaking, you'd expect to be up there. They got some real good players. I particularly like Casey Palmer. I also like their captain, and they've got Cody Dramer in there, who seems to be back fit. So it's going to be interesting to see. Joel Pirro is another one who's done well recently. So they got a lot of good players. You got Casey Palmer, Oscar Zambrano. Jesus Christ, I can't say Zambrano in that midfield is a real good pairing, which I like, and they've got a solid centre back pairing as well. So we will have a quick look at Hull first and foremost before we move on to the good stuff and we move on to Cardiff City, because there's a few players in that Cardiff squad who you could argue deserve maybe to have their place at least looked at, but then you could also argue that there's some pushing for starting places. So it's going to be interesting. For me, what I'll be really looking at is how we set up tactically and the performance the players give, because I still can't decide in my own head if the players turn up and are giving like 100% and are running around and the rest of it, putting the effort in, looking like they care. Is that a kick in the teeth to the fans because they weren't able to do that regardless of the tactics? Or is it an indication that Errol Bullett's tactics was so stifling to the club, to the team, that it meant that they weren't able to push on and press? I saw that Reindorf and Kepakio both with the 21s in the 21 side today. No Louis Giles, but I believe he's injured. They got a lot of injuries at the moment, particularly in the defensive areas. So it doesn't necessarily rule either player in Reindorf or Kepakio out of tomorrow's game. but I do think it's unlikely, and it's certainly unlikely that they start. But you never know. I don't know how someone could probably find out. Did they play a full game? Did they come off half time? Someone wants to have a look, feel free. Excuse me. But in terms of how Hull lined up, are coming off the back of that 3-1 victory versus Stoke. A good away performance. Goals from Slater and Casey Palmer. In terms of their sort of average position, it was pretty much a 4-3-3. But I think it is more of a kind of 4-2-1, like 4-2-3-1 sort of thing, which most teams do line up in. But their average position on the pitch is a bit more interesting. So Stoke ended up with a very average position of a 4-1-1, which obviously makes two banks of four very difficult to break down, with the front two doing a lot of the pressing. Whereas Hull against Stoke, their average position was pretty much a 4-3-3, but there were certain players who really stuck out in that game. Casey Palmer was excellent. Balumi over on the right was excellent. The two centre-backs, Alfie Jones and Sean McLaughlin, both put in solid performances. Cody Dramer's been starting to find that form. Got he and Lewis Coyle in the fullback areas are real strong. And look, if Cardiff play like they did against Leeds, Hull will stick 3 on them easy, because Hull got some real good players in the wide areas as well. So, and that's what I mean about tactically. It'll be really interesting how Omar Riza decides to go, because part of me thinks he might go with a slight change of system, but basically the same. And then part of me thinks, it'll be the same system, just maybe some different personnel. And then at the back of my mind, I've got this nagging thing. Because we signed 3 quality centre-backs, I know Darland's not available at the moment, was part of the plan, at least, with Riza's involvement, to switch to a 3-4, 2-1 or a 4-3-4-3, or, and go with the wing-backs and 3 at the back. I actually think that would be a mistake this weekend unless Pacquiao was available, because unless they play Tanner at right wing-back, I suppose, because I don't think Perry-NG's got the legs these days to do what you need from a wing back, or certainly a traditional wing back at least. But I expect Hull will line up something like this. You'll have either Pandor in goal, 4 defenders, Lewis Coyle right back, who's the captain, Alfie Jones, Sean McLaughlin centre backs, Cody Dramer then over on the left, and then you'll have Zambrano and Casey Palmer with Marvin Malem, with a front 3 of Umar on the left, Bader through the middle, and Balumi off the right. They, of course, have other options on the bench with the likes of Liam Miller, Regan Slater, and also Finley Burns is a player I quite like. Another interesting player which they've got in their squad, who I would predict may feature heavily this season, I think he'll be really good for him, is Xavier Simons. He's a real good player, he is, and I think once he settles in properly at Hull, I think he's going to be a big danger man in this league, and I look forward to seeing him actually, but not against us. It makes going back to Cardiff, and we're gonna focus predominantly on Cardiff, and I'm going to bring up the kind of formation thing on screen, because I think it's interesting, should I say. Like Martin said there, with Darland out, we don't have a natural left-sided centre-back to play the 3 at the back, but I slightly disagree, because you could use Perry-NG in a 3, and he could play left or right, and he could do it quite capably, and it might actually suit him a little bit more with the way he's like sort of tucks inside. He inverts a lot, Perry-NG, rather than bombing forward and overlapping. Ewan in the chat said Riza's talked a good talk so far, but let's see how it translates to the pitch. Steve Davis Evans says, I'm not sure we'll get a win tomorrow, but I do think you'll see a different mindset from these players. Yeah, it's got to be, they've got it, even if Errol Bullock was still in charge, I would expect a performance from these players tomorrow, because Leeds was so bad that they rightly got criticised, they rightly got panned, but it was awful. It was embarrassing the way we retreated. And ultimately, like, if we do lose, it's one of those things. Hull is a bit of a bogey team anyway for us. But I want to see like a pressing Cardiff City. I don't want to just see us. I do not ever want to see us retreating the way we did against Leeds. But I'd actually like to really see a bit of pressing and try and genuinely trying to win the ball back high up the pitch, because Hull will look to keep possession of the ball. They do. They're not like as dilly-dallying as what we are in terms of how slow they, progress it up the pitch. But they will try and play through the likes of Alfie Jones and Lewis Coyle and Cody Dramer. And Coyle, but Dramer in particular, will get real high and wide to give that width. So we need midfield legs is ultimately it. Let me just bring up this. So, but yeah, I'm interested. You guys tell me the team, the formation. Would you change the system? Would you just change the personnel? Would you play the same team that played against Leeds and give them an opportunity to make a point? You tell me what you would do. I'm always interested, and we'll have a look at some of the comments. As I say, I'll bring the formation up on the screen. We'll have a little play about with it and look at some potential options. And I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you what. It's difficult. It's very difficult to predict what Omar Riza will do, because we've got nothing really to look back on in terms of his preferred system or his, what he likes to do and stuff like that. You can only go on the words he said. And the words he said was that he would like to play quite high press. So let's bring the pitching screen. So look, I've got all the players at the bottom. But number one, right? First player on my team sheet, Alex Robertson in the middle. He's the first player on my team sheet, 100% box to box, number 8. Second player on my team sheet is Ruben Colwell, playing in this area. And then I'm going Joe Rawls alongside Robertson, but he is going to sit a bit deeper, so it's going to be a bit more like sort of like this. Rawls is going to be the one who sits and dictates play. Callum Robinson is my striker. First and foremost, I think we're fairly limited in left back options. If Pacquiao hadn't played today, I wouldn't have been against putting Perry Ngo to the left back and playing Pacquiao. Particularly if they were to go with the 3. You also have the option of playing Callum Chambers. But for me, I just wouldn't play Dimitri Gutas at the moment. I think he's been error strewn. But then no one's played particularly well. So if we're going to keep the same, let's assume we're going to keep the same system, okay? So I've got Rawls and Robertson as your 2 midfielders, Fish and Chambers as your centre-backs, Perry Ng as your right back, Dowda as the left back, really through lack of choices. I'm going to go with El Ghazi on the left and Willock on the right. I was umming and ahhing because I really want to see an end to the wingers, like the inverted wingers. So I prefer to say, oh, I forgot about Jamalu Collins actually. So I'd expect him to probably come in. And if he comes in, it's then a choice between O'Dowda and El Ghazi. I thought El Ghazi did quite well, but I'm going to go with O'Dowda simply because I want to see left-footed winger on the left-hand side, right-footed winger on the right-hand side, Ruben Colwell in the 10, and Robertson being the legs, Rawls being the sitter who sits and just dictates the play from deep. I think that is the best option. But there is other ways that I could see us playing. I wouldn't be surprised if we lined up something like this in a 4-4-2 with Colwell, just off Robinson, but playing quite far forward and playing like that 4-4-2 system. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. But then equally, I wouldn't be shocked to see Chambers, Fish, and Collins as a 3, with O'Dowda as your left-hand side. And then we'll have And it really comes down to how much he wants to shake it up. Does he want to play a completely different system? Does he want to go with, the same sort of shape but different way of implementing it? If we were going to play 3 at the back, I would go something like that. So it's a bit, it's more of a 3-4-3 or 3-4-1-2. So I would go with Collins, Fish, Chambers. I would go Dowd at left wing back, Tanner right wing back, with Robertson and Rawls as the 2 midfielders. Colwell in the 10, just behind Robinson. But you're also, El Ghazi is also going to drop in there. So that's going to create spaces for, hopefully, for Colwell, El Ghazi to get in and around Robinson. It's quite an attacking formation. So I could see, out of possession, you're going to see El Ghazi and Colwell drop there. You could even see, when we're under pressure, you could see a 5, and then you might see El Ghazi drop to the right and Colwell drop to the left. So you've almost got a 5-4-1 out. Like, I'm talking completely out of possession. So, if Hull are coming forward, you're going to see like a flat 5-4, and then Robinson's the kind of chaser who's just going to go across and across. I don't think we'll go with 3 at the back, but it's, like I said, it's so difficult to guess. I wouldn't be against. Here's one. If you really wanted to shake things up, this is a potential way you could do it. Okay, so you go Tanner as your left winger. You go Willock as your right winger. And this is very attacking, very risky, by the way, as well. And this isn't necessarily what I would do, but this is something which I think is not beyond the realms of possibilities. I think it's unlikely, I got to be honest. But basically, if you went with like a 4-4, like a traditional 4-4-2 almost, Chambers and Fish, obviously El Ghazi would be right back. You'd probably have NG in there, I guess. Chambers, Fish, Collins, NG, Robertson, Rawls, Tanner left, Willock right, and then Ashford and Robinson up front. I don't think that happens. I just don't see it. What would be interesting, what would be really, really interesting to me is, can we get the youngsters in? But if we're going to create more chances, if we're going to press more and we're going to press higher up the field, are we going to see a different version of Wilfred Kanga? If we're pressing high up the pitch, will we see a different version of Wilfred Kanga? Because if we are, you might end up seeing something more like this. Put Colwell back in. So if you see, like, it's a 4-2-3-1, but what you might end up with is getting players like Callum Robinson right up here alongside Kanga, getting Willock in these areas. So in pre-season, I know I harp back to this a lot. In pre-season, this was the shape that when we had the football, this is the shape we had. Your wingers were right alongside the strikers. Your fullbacks were right up here. So we were pinning teams back. And then your number 10 was there. And then all that happened is these would be pushed up. You'd sitter, so Rawls in this case would sort of drop in to make it a 3 at the back. And then your number 10, Colwell and Robertson, your number 8, would be the ones who would be looking to pick up the ball in these areas. But the 5 across the front would be the ones who were really pinning everyone back. So your fullbacks were given the width. Look, it's out of possession. In possession. So it's a very aggressive style. But that's what we used in pre-season. And it worked. Look, of course, the way the opposition matters. And the opposition we played in pre-season was pointless. Like in terms of, could you use it? But Errol Bullock never used that shape in in the league games. Hasn't used it once. The first game was similar, but much more defensive. I also believe, and I'll bring this off the screen in just a second, this is the team, if we play 3 at the back, this is what I think we might see, is I think we'll see 2 10s behind a striker, whether the striker's Robinson or Kanga, and I think you get Colwell and Willock or El Ghazi maybe in there. And then obviously where Kanga is would be just O'Dowda, probably, most likely. You have Collins in there, and then you have your wing backs. In an ideal world, you'd have had O'Dowda on the left as your one wing back, and then on this right hand side, you'd have had Pacquiao as a wing back, who gives you a lot of energy and aggression going at this right hand side. I don't know how long he played today, so I really believe that it's going to be pretty much the same system. I just think a couple of the personnel might be slightly different. So I think, and again, we've got nothing to base it on, so it's difficult. I think we're going to see, this is what I believe we'll see, something like this. And look, this system, there's a reason why so many teams play in a 4-2-3-1, because it's so flexible. It's designed and it's evolved over time from a 4-3-3, from a 4-5-1, because it is so flexible. Defensively, you can have 2 banks of 4, and then these two be in the pressing sort of 2, or you can even have your 10 drop in to make it a 4-5-1. So when you lose possession, you're very difficult to break down. But the point is, when you win the ball, he's got to be running in behind. He has got to be picking up these little pockets of space around him and close to him. He sets, he supports there, like box to box. He's up here, up and down. Your wingers are high and wide. Your fullbacks will push up to support. And then if NG does want to do what he normally does and go into this area, it's not the worst idea, because if Robertson's pushing up, NG can kind of drop, push into this area. Collins can get right up with O'Dowda, like he did when he first joined us. And you've still got plenty of protection in the back areas to slow things down, to bring a free kick, to stop any counterattacks. That's why this formation is so widely used by teams. It's because it's so flexible in and out of possession. The question will be, is the personnel. As I said, first names on the team sheet is the spine pretty much for me. Alnwick, Fish, Robertson, Colwell, Robinson. They're then the first names on my team sheet, and then everything else should be built around them, in my opinion, as we stand at the moment. I think El Ghazi will be unlucky to not start. I've gone for Willock on the right and O'Dowda on the left. I wouldn't be against playing Tanner off the left as well, but I think it's important we get those wingers playing high and wide. So let me know what you think. Obviously, we've looked at a few different options. Going to have a look at some of the comments now and see what people are saying. So let's have a look. Steve says, not sure how long they played Reindorf and Pacquiao, but both started. Riza says, I'm keen to see how he sets up more than anything. Martin says, we need a midfield that can press beyond the halfway line. Completely agree. It's imperative, both in and out of possession, that we get Alex Robertson in the team. I can't believe we signed him and then have left him on the bench so much. Steve says, would love to see Rawls and Robertson in the middle. Yeah, that's the 2 I'd probably go for. I'm not the same as everyone else. Like, I don't think that Siopis being in there alongside Robertson is the be all and end. Like, it's not the end of the world. And I'll be interested to see how Siopis performs under Riza and under the new manager going forward. But I think a Rawls-Robertson midfield is a bit of a nice mix. I like it. And I think Rawls can play that sort of shielding role, but also dictate a bit of play quite well. Martin says, don't pick a midfield player to protect the back four who can't do it. Yeah, I accept that. So Steve's team is 4-2-3-1. Alnwick, O'Dowda, Gutas, Chambers, NG, Rawls, Robertson, Willock, Colwell, and El Ghazi at Robertson. Robinson. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that, mate. Wayne says Hull haven't got a good home record at the moment. Cardiff have to jump on that. Yeah, and when you play teams which are a bit shaky at home, like Cardiff, you've got to get at them early and really, really push them. Because an early goal then can really set the cat amongst the pigeons and make them nervous. They make mistakes. Look at Cardiff. They made a mistake against Burnley when they were playing well. Didn't have much confidence and they fell apart. Like, it can happen. Martin said, I'd play Willock alongside Robertson. Oh, I wouldn't play Willock that deep unless you mean like on the right-hand side, I suppose. Fish at the right side. Steve says, if it's 3 at the back, I'd have El Ghazi right wing back and have Kanga off Robinson. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Kanga starts with either Colwell much closer to him or even Robinson. I won't be surprised if we end up with Kanga and Robinson with Colwell sort of behind the two of them, pulling the strings. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see that. Reece says, I think it'll be pretty much the same sort of system as we've seen. Yeah, Martin says the 2 pivots have been too deep all season. Yeah, it's the way they set up, mate. It's weird. Like, we signed a genuine box-to-box midfielder who, yes, can play other roles, but his best position is a box-to-box. He's great on the ball. He's good out of possession. He's young, so he's got the energy and the legs. And then we're asking him to sit in front of the defence alongside Joe Rawls or Siopis or whoever. Joshua says 3-4-2-1 for me, so I go for it. Yeah, I think that's the way to go, mate. I've said that all season. I think we've got a system that sets up for that well. So this is an interesting one. Fact 2527 says it's a League One squad, little attacking threat, no real goal scorer. I completely disagree with that. Whilst I don't disagree with the no real goal scorer threat, like, that's obviously an issue, but it's not a League One squad whatsoever. Like, it's a very, very capable championship squad. I think when you can get Darland in there alongside Fish and maybe Chambers goes out to the right, I think that opens it up a bit. But I still stand by the fact that I think 1 or 2 of these young fullbacks coming in a three centre-back system would be really beneficial to our attacking threat. If you can get the young fullbacks, young wing-backs there, get Fish and Darland, the age they're at and the quality they have, they can be centre-back pairing for a long time. Martin says, Cyprus has no goals, no assists since he joined the club. It's not his job, mate. It's not what he's here for. And his best periods in the team have been when he's just been that defensive midfielder who just protects the defence. That's all I need from him. And I've said that all along. The way he gets caught out is when he goes wandering and tries to go and win the ball high up the pitch or like runs around where he's not supposed to be. I just need him to hold his position in front of a defence and win the ball back and give it to your Robertsons, your Colwells, your whoever's. Like, I don't want him to be playing 40-yard Hollywood passes. I don't need that from him. I need him to win the ball back and give it to someone else and then sit. Unfortunately, the Siopis just hasn't done that this season, which is where we've been leaking goals because the defence is exposed time and time again. Now, is it all on Siopis? No, of course it's not. But the defensive structure is massively reliable on your number 6 to do that job. Massively reliable. And whilst our fullbacks don't go up and overlap, if you've got a winger in O'Dowda, which we've had a lot, a left back, he's going to get forward. And NG tends to sort of push up a little bit. If you then lose the ball and Siopis isn't in position, it just leaves your centre-backs exposed all the time. I do also think, though, that Callum Robinson is capable of scoring goals in the Championship, but he never seems to get a run of games as the out-and-out number 9. But we need to create, so you've got to be looking at your Colwells, El Ghazis, Willocks. They've got to create chances for whoever's playing up front, whether it's Kanga, whether it's Robinson, whether it's someone else. They have to create goal scoring opportunities. But also, like Joshua says, you don't need a goal scorer threat if all your team contribute. And I do think that this team needs and should be contributing more goals. Ruben Colwell should be contributing more goals. Robinson should be contributing more. Callum O'Dowda, Willock, Robertson, El Ghazi. These guys have got to step up and score as well as create. And when you look at that, then if they all can chip in with 4 or 5 goals, like, you're cooking them, aren't you? Because you've got a lot of players. We've got a lot of those kind of number 10-y wingers. So we have to find a way to utilize them in a system that's going to utilize as many of them as possible and create chances and goals. Our biggest problem all season has been our midfield had a combined age of like 90 something. It's been a massive issue. When you look at other teams in the championship, particularly teams at the top, their midfield, which is what wins you football matches, is full of early 20s, athletic, energetic, but technically good footballers. They're all like in the midfield, and then you might have one experienced guy who sits in the middle of them and just dictates the play. That's what I would like Joe Rawls to do, is just sit and let Robertson be the legs, let Colwell drop in there and be the creative standpoint. Joshua says NG needs to be dropped. Shocking so far. I think the biggest issue with NG is who do you drop him for? Because I think it's a risk to chuck Pacquiao in there as an out-and-out fullback. So you'd have to change the system really to allow that to be fair to him. And you can't put Chambers there because then, well, in my opinion, I wouldn't put Chambers to right back simply because I wouldn't play Gutas. I think he's a mistake waiting to happen. He looks really nervous at the moment, and I wouldn't play him. I'd rather Chambers than Fish. I thought Fish did pretty well. The ideal is Darling than Fish for me. But yeah, I if he's going to go 3 at the back, mate, I cannot understand the logic of Pacquiao playing today for the 21s unless they're so short on players in the 21s that it's just like one of them things, like, you know, that they just needed bodies. I'm going to find out. I'm going to send a quick message to someone who would know. Bear with me a second. I know it doesn't make for good viewing, but how long did Pacquiao and Reindorf play? See if they reply in the next 10 minutes or so. But yeah, I understand why people want the likes of Pacquiao. I've been saying, like, all season I wouldn't be against either one of them playing, but I wouldn't be against Louis Giles playing in that system on the left, because I think his delivery is such a weapon that it's like it can be really important to us. But it's interesting. Let's have a look at some of these comments then. Joshua's team for tomorrow would be a 3-4-2-1. Alnwick, Collins, Chambers, Fish as your centre-backs. O'Dowda and Pacquiao as your wing-backs. Robertson rolls with Willock and Colwell off El Ghazi. That's an interesting front three there, mate, because with a lot of like interchange and movement, that could be really difficult to pick up, because all three of them like to wander a bit and find those pockets of space. If you've got 3 players, it becomes like that. It becomes very difficult for the centre-backs and the defensive midfielder to kind of get straight who they want to follow. So I can see a bit of logic to that. Steve says, agree on the lack of goal scorer, but you need to give your head a wobble if you think that's a League One squad. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's a League One squad. Psyopis can't protect the back four. Look at the goals this season. Yeah, I mean, I addressed that just now. It's been a definite problem. But when you look at his best performances last year and when he first came in, it was when he just sat and swept up after everyone. And the example I always use is when Tanner played left back and got everyone praised him, rightly so, for playing out of position and blah, blah, blah. But he got caught out of position a lot. Well, not a lot, but a few times. And Siopis just came across, swept up, put it out for a throw in or whatever, won the ball back. That's what you needed, is just do that kind of single role. So Pacquiao and Reindorf played for the under-21s on Monday. No chance of them being in the squad because they've played 2 under-21s games in the last 5 days. So I think that's probably puts that to bed. I think if they'd only played today or maybe an hour or whatever, we've seen that before. 21s play on a Friday and then they're in the squad Saturday, but I think it's unlikely. So look what we got. Fact 2527 says, I understand your point about defenders, some good options. However, the midfield lacks experience and a goal threat. Our strikers are at best a goal every 5 games. I don't understand the point about the midfield experience, but the attacking threat I get. I just question just a few things with the strikers, right? Robinson, if he can stay fit and plays week in, week out, and we do play generally as a team more attacking, I do think he scores goals. He's the best finisher at the club for a start. He's been on a bit of a hot streak at the start of the season and then dropped or whatever for whatever reason. And Kanga, as much as I've criticised his body language and his effort levels and his work rate and his ability, just because you're not getting the ball doesn't mean you can't put yourself about a bit. But he has had no service whatsoever. I'd be interested how he does in a system that creates chances, because he has scored goals elsewhere. Now, of course, the championship is different and maybe it's just too quick for him or whatever. But I would be interested to see how he does in a more attacking team or a more attacking system. So we might see that tomorrow. Will we see Kanga and Robinson up front as a 4-4-2? Maybe. I think people are assuming that Riza might go to a 3 at the back. I think he might go to a 4-4-2. I don't know. It's quite a flexible squad when you look at the positions that the players can play and stuff. And let's have a look. Yeah, and ultimately you can't create anything and you can't score if you're sat on the halfway line or in your own half trying to stop the other team from scoring constantly. That's how bad we've been. Joshua said, I'd put Darland in for Collins when fit. I assume you mean in that 3 centre-back role. Yeah, for me, the sooner we can get Darland and Fish playing together, whether as a 2 or in a 3, the better. Josh NG needs dropping. He says Pacquiao if the system changes, which he's hinted at, to be fair. Yeah, but I don't necessarily think that changing the system definitely means 3 at the back. I think it might mean 2 up front. But it's just hypothesizing. It's just guessing, isn't it? There you are. That's an interesting one. Steve says NG's played his best football for us as a 3rd centre-back. That's a pretty good shout. That is a pretty good shout. Yeah, Pacquiao and Reindorf will not play. They maybe on the bench, but I don't even think they make the bench. Let's have a look. Don't know what Steve's on about. Reese says they won't play. The first team would have travelled to Hull yesterday evening or early this morning, so the youngsters won't be able to play or travel or feature tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know where they play today. It was close. They won't be in the squad now. There's enough players now. Like Cardiff got quite a big squad anyway. Yeah, Giles is injured at the moment. I think Bagan will be real interesting when he comes back, because I thought he did all right. Bullet seemed to think he was a centre back, but I thought Bagan's done all right at left back this year when he has played. Certainly a better option than O'Dowda at left back, I think. Fac 2527 says the point about Robertson is keeping him fit. He's struggled with fitness since he's joined us. Wish he could have a run of 10 games to see what he's about. Yeah, I agree with that, mate. 100%. Oh, there you are. That's interesting. Cardiff under-21s lost today to Sheffield United. Sheffield is not very far from Hull. So technically, if they wanted to put any of them in the squad, they could. It's not. I don't think they will. Like, when you look at the squad, so I mean, even if we just look at that team, which I just had up on the screen, yeah, just quickly. So even if, say that's the team, right? You've still got, off the top of my head, Kanga, Tanner, El Ghazi, Siopis, Gutas. I feel like I'm missing another attacking player, but I can't think who it is. Of Gutas, the keeper. So that's 7 just off the top of my head. I'm sure I'm missing a couple as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting what he does. I think if he keeps the same system, we'll end up, I think, it'll be Willock or El Ghazi on the right, O'Dowd on the left, Colwell 10, Rawls and Robertson. If Alex Robertson is not on the bench, I'll be super not in the starting lineup. I'll be really disappointed. I really will, because he should be the first name on the team sheet for me. I'll say it again. The spine is the first names on that team sheet for me at the moment. Alnwick, Fish, Robertson, Colwell, Robinson. Those, and then build around that. That's what I would do. But some people might disagree, some people won't. It's all about opinions. In terms of going back to Hull very quickly, we like to pick out a star man or someone who I think could cause us some issues. It's a tricky one today, because there's a few players in that Hull squad who I think could do us some damage. I'm going to go with Cody Dramer as a star man, and there's a reason for that. Is Cody Dramer is really good down that left, and if you look at his heat map against Stoke, he spends a lot of time in the opponent's half. Oh, Mate's back as well, so yeah, we're not short on players. But yeah, if you look at Cody Dramer's heat map against Stoke, where he had a 7.5 out of 10 on SofaScore, it's all in the opponent's half and all up that left-hand side, very, very wide, very, very close to the touchline. Perry NG's been in poor form, so it's important that whoever does play on the right, when we're out of possession, they do give Perry NG a bit of protection and a bit of help. Same with Robertson. But I'm going to go with Cody Dramer, because I think that's a danger area where teams can get us down our right, their left. But look, Oscar Zambrona, you gotta keep on top of him and Casey Palmer. So Robertson, Rawls, Siopis, whoever plays, you've got to do it, and you've got to do it well. Hull, no mugs, but I expect us to, if we play like the manager's saying we're going to play, then you expect us to be at least create some chances, and they haven't had the best home form. I would like to think Cardiff could start fast to get the fans going. But it's difficult. I can't see how Kanga retains his place in the side. He's been that bad, and unless he plays a 2, that's the only way I see Kanga starting, is if he plays 2 up front. As simple as that. But we'll go with it. In terms of Cardiff, man to watch, I'm going to go with Alex Robertson. I've been screaming out for him to play. I think he's exceptional on the ball, good off the ball, and I really think if we play him and Rawls and Colwell, that's a good young midfield with obviously Rawls in there to give the bit of experience in there. And also, if you get those two around Rawls, all 3 of them are very good passers. So hopefully you can create some chances. But we've got to play higher up the pitch generally. We need to press higher. Defence needs to be higher. Midfield needs to be higher. The only midfielder I want to see deep is Rawls, just sat in front of the 2 centre-backs. And I want to see NG push up, whether he inverts or whether he goes up and gets up with the winger. And I want to see Collins get up because I think Collins can be a really good attacking fullback. We haven't quite seen it consistently since his injury. So I'd like to see that from him. And that's assuming that he goes with Collins and doesn't go with like O'Dowd at left back so that he can fit in a Tanner or an El Ghazi. And that's the other thing, like rightly said by Martin, is I mentioned that Cody Dramer, I think, is a danger point. But if you've got either Ollie Tanner, Willock, it's got to be whoever plays on the right-hand side, in my opinion, for Cardiff, needs to be someone with a bit of pace. I would probably, the more I think about it, I would probably go with Tanner on the right because Cody Draymond does get forward. So if he does, if we can win the ball back and exploit that by having Tanner play nice and high and wide, but I don't want to see a bloody left footer on the right wing. So what right-footed winger have we got who's got a bit of pace about him? Willock's not lightning, but he's not slow. I think you could do that. So, there's lots of options. As always, drop your predictions. My predicted score for the game tomorrow is, I think Cardiff are going to find their scoring boots, and I'm going to go with 2-1 to Cardiff City. Why not? Let's be optimistic. Omar Riza has been itching to get these boys pressing and playing. So he's walked the walk. Now he's got to, or should I say he's talked the talk, and now he's got to walk the walk, as it were. But I just want those away fans to just get a performance out of these players. Like I said many times this season, for the sake of repeating myself, don't mind losing. Don't want to lose, but don't mind losing if we play to win. What I don't accept and I cannot stand watching, it's just painful, is losing 2-0 and not even trying to win. Like we're just trying not to lose. And I can't stand that. I'd rather lose 5-3 or 5-2 trying to win than lose 2-0 and literally not create a chance. I just can't watch that anymore. So I just want to see us be a bit more effective in the patterns of play and the way we press. And if I can see those signs, then I'll take that. And I'll take a 2-1 victory. Or I'll take a 1-0 victory at this point. Just score a bloody goal, create some chances, put the opposition under some pressure, as it were. I think I need a haircut and a beard trim. Guys, as always, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate all the interaction and the comments in the chat. Appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll, of course, be back tomorrow. There'll be a match reaction with the boys. It's normally about 9 o'clock in the evening to allow them to all sort the kids out and get back and stuff, and then they'll have a good chat about the game. I'll probably try and post something straight after the game, just like a quick little live, like 10 minutes or whatever, just give my initial emotional sort of views. But look, Omar Riza is almost like a win-win for him. He's got nothing to lose. So I hope he really does do what he said. And I hope we press high. I hope we're attacking. And I hope we try and score some goals. Because I'm fed up of watching us just play to not lose. I'm bored of that. Let's go try and win a game of football for a change. As always, a pleasure. Take it easy. And I'll be back on Sunday night for the break time in a bit.